call a special meeting of the Waterford Town Board to order on December 16th, 2024 at 4:45 p.m. I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.851 C and F to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee of which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and to consider financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of such specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which if discussed in public will be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data are involved in such problems or investigations. Specifically, the closed session will relate to discussion of the proposed resolution of disciplinary action against law enforcement officer and possible action on the same.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll reconvene back in. Motion to go back into open, please.
Go back in open session.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Have a motion, please.
Tina, do you want those still on if they're using this? You want to turn it off? Because otherwise.
I'll make a motion that we agree to the settlement that was offered.
As discussed in closed session.
I'll second that.
First and second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Call this meeting to order the Town of Waterford Board special meeting, Monday, December 16th at 5 p.m. Discussion and possible action regarding cooperative boundary agreement with the Village of Waterford and resolution. We were here last week, and I know some of us had questions and or concerns. I spoke with Dale today, and he said that you've got some answers, or so we can start with, and I'll go down, Bob. I know you had a few questions that you brought up last time, and we'll see, you know, what answers or what we have in return. Now, Dale, you've got some answers prepared. Did you want to start with one of your questions, or?
Well, I emailed all of my questions. I got a response from Doug that is not sufficient to calm my nerves about a 50-year agreement. If it's not in the document, it doesn't exist. And I mean, I haven't seen any substantive answers to my questions, and I haven't seen any updates. So I guess I don't have much to go on.
Dale, I know that I talked to you because one of the things that was concerning, and I know Supervisor well, and also the both attorneys that had looked at it, and we talked a little bit about part where, you know, if any part of the town would ever incorporate, be it, you know, having anything to do with the town supporting it or not supporting it, if that area would ever incorporate, you know, all the other areas would automatically default to the village. Spoke a little bit about that. Did you want to speak about that?
Sure. Let me give my response to that. This would be question number 4, the incorporation part of the proposal. This section was added to address a concern of the village. Municipal mergers are becoming more common in Wisconsin. The village wants to ensure that if a group of 50 or more citizens were to seek incorporation in any portion of the town, that the village would still be able to retain their village growth areas for future growth. The concern is that if such a petition were to get to a referendum vote and pass, the newly created village, whether it be Waterford Woods or Tishigan Lake or Caldwell, could immediately annex the rest of the town, including the village growth areas. The remote scenario, seeing as how we just failed an incorporation recently, but it gives the village assurance that they would not lose their village growth areas should it happen. And such an incorporation would be even more damaging to the remaining township if a substantial portion of the town incorporated. Major loss of tax base would make it difficult for the remaining township to even provide services. So, I don't know, does that help?
It doesn't really, because let's say Michigan Lake incorporates, that's a major center of the tax base
Sure.
for the town. And then 1,000 acres are automatically transferred to the village, which further reduces the tax base for the remainder of the town. That town remnant is left without much. And then if you look at the little triangle area that I've also mentioned as one of my questions, north of Maine, south of Kramer, and southeast of 36, what becomes of them? They are now even more separated from the town than they currently are. So the town that, because Michigan is incorporated, the town is now everything to the west of the waterway and the little triangle wedge. There needs to be consideration for these things, and I'm not seeing it in this plan.
Well, the Gale Circle Triangle was discussed. You know, you had mentioned initially that you thought that was a town island. But talking to Stan Riffle and Eric Schmidtke, we determined that it was not, because in order to be a town island, it has to be entirely 360 degrees surrounded by village property. And that borders the town of Norway. So it's been receiving services all these years. Its location is not changing. You know, we could provide the same services at the same level that we always have. So I don't think that's really an issue. And if you want to give that up, that's another 10 or $11 million worth of tax base lost. So I don't think that would be a good solution.
Well, neither is giving away 1,000 acres because 50 people decide they want to incorporate, in my opinion.
Attorney Sorensen, I know we spoke about this. Did you have something to say about that?
Well, yeah, just had to repeat what was said earlier, is the fact that if you do approve this, you do lose control because it's an automatic. And I think one of the things that I pointed out is you're really trying to bind people in the future to something that they really don't have a right of due process to discuss. I think you have to leave that open-ended so the people in the future would have a right, depending on the nature of the people that are petitioning to create their own incorporation. Why do you want to take away the rights of people in the future by statements today that would bind those people when you could decide that by referendum or by other means of the future?
Yeah, thank you. I know it's been said all along that nobody's going to be forced into the village, but it doesn't look that way when you actually read everything, and that's one example.
I still indicate this is a remote scenario. I think after our field corporation, the likelihood of any other group attempting to incorporate is probably, you know, limited. But if you feel that way, then Bob and the attorney, what is your wording for that paragraph? How would you reword it to make it acceptable to you?
Personally, I'd remove it.
Yeah, just remove it.
Well, and then,
what incentive there would be for the village? Let's say, Michigan incorporates, the next day, the rest of the town of Waterford could ask to be annexed in, and we all become the village of Michigan,
Yeah,
which leaves, the village, for what? They're giving up their extra territorial and everything, and now all of a sudden, they're locked in and they're froze.
Okay, but we're supposed to sign it because it's such a remote chance that it's not going to happen. So you can say it's the same remote chance for them.
Maybe a remote chance today, who knows how remote that chance is 20,
50
30, 40
years.
years from now.
so what's your plan, Bob, for this paragraph? Just to get rid of it?
Remove it.
Okay. What other concerns do you still have, Bob?
Well, along the lines of incorporation. But I guess if that paragraph is removed, that no longer matters either. But another problem was that redevelopment triggers transfer to the village. I think that the town should have just as much opportunity for development and growth as the village does. If an example that I used was property near the cotton exchange decides that they want to put in more self-storage units because Waterford needs self-storage units. There's that would automatically trigger, because it's redevelopment, it would trigger transfer to the village. Well, now if it's not the one right next to the Cotton Exchange, but it's a couple down, well, now you're also factoring them in within 7 years because you've now created an island with those properties. So now there's more people who are being forced into the village. When all along we've been told that nobody will be forced into the village if they don't want to be in the village.
Okay, we leave it the way it is. So now you're extraterritorial, you've got a mile and a half that they have to have 20-acre parcels. Is that fair?
No, but that's the village did that. I didn't do that.
No, state law gave them that, to do.
It gave them the authority. It did not mandate that they do it.
Well, we're trying to, go ahead and go over all this and try to work with them. And instead, we're the ones now that look like we're the ones that don't want to work with anybody.
Not
We
with
want to
them.
be just by ourselves. I wrote the thing back to you, answering every one of them, and I did not get one question back from you after that. It was like, must have been okay, because I didn't hear any more from you. Now, all of a sudden, now, it wasn't acceptable, my answers.
Doug?
Well, it would have been nice to know before I walked in this room.
Doug, watch the listening session and read the document. Doesn't answer the questions that I wrote after having watched the listening session and reading the document. I asked those questions because after having done those things,
And
I still had questions.
I took the time to write the answers that I could to you for them.
And okay, that's,
I'll receive this to lunch.
Let me try your question here. Redevelopment triggers transferring property from the town to the village. You're concerned about that, right?
yes,
But this is only within the village growth areas. And the whole purpose of this boundary agreement is to agree to concede a certain areas of the township to the village for redevelopment or for development in return for getting rid of the 1.5 mile extraterritorial zoning and land division authority and the 20-acre minimum lot size. So we can't say, well, what could the town do in those areas? This is the whole purpose, is to give the village areas, and all these areas are located next to the village water and sewer. So they can all be served by village water and sewer, where they're not in our town sanitary district or near it. So we couldn't provide sanitary sewer service in any of these areas anyway.
with the exception of the golf course.
Well, the golf course, we receive service to only for the restaurant at the golf course. And Doug and I met with the Waterford Sanitary District last Thursday morning at their monthly meeting, and we discussed the golf course as well. They did not have a concern if this were to be annexed, if the restaurant at the time, they could decide whether the village or the town would provide sanitary service for us. Sanitary district commissioners didn't see any issue with that.
That still leaves the paragraph limiting what the sanitary district is able to do, and whether or not the town has the authority to bind the sanitary district in an agreement that does not include them.
Well, they told us they didn't have an issue, right, Doug?
Right, but they also said twice that we don't have the authority to sign it.
You made a motion that they,
Yeah, they made an motion that they are okay with the wording that's in here.
because we asked if they wanted to change the wording and they said no.
It's the motion in last Thursday's monthly meeting. So I don't think that's an issue. Anything else, Bob?
Let me get back to that one.
But the thing about the town islands.
Well, yeah, just because it doesn't legally meet the definition of a town island, it meets the spirit of a town island. It would still be geographically separated. So you can,
So which paragraph are you referring to?
well, I'm just referring to your notion that because the law says it's not a town island, doesn't change the character of the fact that it would be geographically isolated from the remainder of the town.
Are you talking about the Gale Circle?
Yes.
They've received town services for the last 150 years.
Well, and right now they're connected to the town. But if the
Yeah.
1,000 acres is accreted to the village, they would be geographically separated.
They're gonna be in the same location they've always been. Nothing is moving.
No, but the services are. The services now have to transit through more of the village to get to the
They'll be using
location.
the same roads.
It-
There's no difference in distance or time or anything.
okay, so Tishigan Lake incorporates, well, they can't take in Gale Circle because they can't create an island on the other side
Well, with Tishian Lake Incorporated, look how far away Tishian Lake is from down there. If you're just talking about the lake itself, it's nowhere near the Gale Circle area.
Well, it depends on how far south that village would extend. I mean, the populated area extends down the waterway. So if that whole area were to incorporate, I mean, at one time, members of this board decided that they wanted to incorporate all the farmland into the village as well. So to say where those boundaries would be, I mean, it's hypothetical, so we don't know where those boundaries would be.
You could include the whole impoundment, but it still would be a considerable distance to Gale Circle. And
That's my point.
It wouldn't matter. If Michigan Fire still continues to serve it, they can take the same roads they've always taken. I don't
Yeah,
think that-
through the village. My point is that from a perspective of compactness, this plan doesn't satisfy the compactness.
So you want to give that tax base away to the.
Well, no, you keep saying that, but my objective is to maintain as much townland as possible in a manner that makes sense.
So then you shouldn't have any problem with leaving that in the town.
We can talk in circles all night long if you want, Dale. That's not going to accomplish much. The fact is that is a sliver of land that is geographically separated from anywhere else. So
So how would you change that? What would you do different in the text of this? plan?
well, one option, like you've mentioned, is to have that go into the village. Another is to keep a corridor that actually connects that to the remainder of the town.
Well, I think we do have a corridor that gets to,
According to the map, I don't believe so.
yeah. I think it goes up to Kramer. Doesn't it, Doug?
There was some question, I know I was gonna put a sliver, but after talking to, Eric Schmidtke at the state, he said, why would you wanna do that, remember? He said, since Norway's on the other side, just leave it the way it is.
So would that become part of Norway then at some point?
No, it would just stay part of the town.
So,
You saw
so
no problem in it.
Towns can annex from
Michigan
towns.
incorporates, Caldwell incorporates, and now you've just got a hodgepodge of this townland here and this townland there.
If the state okays their incorporation.
I think there are too many questions and too much that's ambiguous to
Okay.
go forward.
Another question was with the town islands,
Where are you at?
section 7. Kind of like halfway down. Town islands create.
What page? Section 7?
Question that with the 7 years, shall be attached to the village for 7 years unless the personal title is transferred earlier. So you've got someone who's purchasing a home. They think that they're in the town of Waterford. They purchase the home, bam, they're in the village.
Yeah, well, this,
And I mean, Eric did say that with a 50-year agreement with town islands, you do have the full 50 years to go into the village. So it's not a gift. I mean, 5 years is the minimum that they have to give us. So the title transfer, I think there's gonna be people that are not happy about that. Again, you've said time and time again that no one's gonna be forced into the village, and this is another area where I see that would happen.
The landowner passes away and bequeaths it to their child. That's a transfer of title.
Yeah, they see the taxes when they buy the house, and then bam.
well, who knows what the taxes will be at that time? The village taxes may be lower in the future. You know, who knows?
And so the property owner should have a choice.
Well, they do for 7 years.
Well,
No,
not
unless the
really,
title
no.
is transferred.
Well, if the title is transferred, they're gone, bye-bye.
And so there's no
What
choice.
if I have a
That's
home and
that's
I
the
want
point.
it, I want a
There's
title
no
to transfer
choice.
to my kid? Now they're in the village,
Well,
paying village taxes.
maybe lower. Okay, what else?
Has it ever happened? The land divisions. I think those were the main areas of contention.
I have a question on section 17. Starts on page 13. Question is actually on page 14. In order to make a recommendation, a majority of the voting members from who are present at the meeting must join the recommendation. There's no mention of how a meeting is called, a minimum number of attendees. So it's possible that one side decides to to call a meeting and there's only the members from one side or the other, while if a majority of the voting members is then be the two who are present without the two from the other side. I would like to see that clarified.
I don't think a meeting would be held if nobody was there from the other side, but
Well,
at any rate.
Well, then it
this-
should be
this is-
written that way.
This is just a committee that makes recommendations. It doesn't have any authority to control over the village or the town. It's just,
Well, then why?
Well, if you only have two people there, it wouldn't be a quorum.
It doesn't say it needs a
Doesn't
quorum.
say anything about quorum. Majority of the voting members.
We're present. If only one person shows up,
call himself to order.
If the wording just needs to be more clear. We need to, again, it's a 50-year agreement.
number 6.
We can't go on, right? Everything needs to be clear. I've seen things in the past that weren't clear and the trouble we get into because of that.
This is a 50-year agreement without any do-overs. It needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done with due consideration. There's no reason to rush it. The language in the document needs to match the intent. As well as correcting typos.
And I know I brought this up before, but page 15, section 20. It's just something I brought up before. The town shall receive a portion of the property tax revenue on any parcels.
Wait, what page are you on?
That page 15, section 20. After a period of 10 years, which is, over the 5 that they have to. The shared revenue shall be based on the current town assessed property value at the time of annexation. Again, I've been told by Eric that many towns are opting to say, we want that on the developed property and not what the property was, the value at the time. So that's something else. Did you guys even consider discussing that?
Yeah, they were discussed and this is what we came up with.
We went from the 5 to 10 years, and instead of at the mill rate, when it goes into the village, it would be whatever our mill rate is per year. So if our mill rate goes up, it would go up. If our mill rate stays the same, we get the same amount. If our mill rate drops, it would drop. There again, per the state, you would get 5 years at the current mill rate when it is annexed into the village.
And the egg penalty, that's needs to be clear too.
Hey, what page, what
The
paragraph?
same thing, under 15. I know we had an issue with that before.
It's not on page 15.
Oh,
page
Bottom of
16,
15, top of 16, just make sure that that's clear. Anytime it's paid, what shall it be?
That's pretty clear.
Yeah,
Whatever
this
the
was-
village gets, they
I'm
split
just
50/50.
reading it over, making sure.
Seems quite clear to me.
So anything else? I think those were our main questions. Tim, any questions
Nope.
from you? So come back. We need to have some discussions and see what we can work out. Again, I agree with Bob. I mean, this is a 50-year plan. We need to make sure it's very clear. We need to make sure that, everything is done correctly to the T. This is gonna be impacting people for a long time to come, long after any of us are gone.
Well, I don't think there's anything that's been brought up that to me would indicate that we can't approve this. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve the November 29th, 2024 draft of the intergovernmental cooperative plan between the town of Waterford and the village of Waterford as printed.
I'll second that.
Second, any discussion? Take a roll call vote.
No.
Supervisor Eulinger? Supervisor
Yes.
Schultz? No?
Yes,
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second,
All right.
opposed? Thank you, Attorney Sorensen.
You need to keep your mic tonight.